First contact fallout. They emerged from the darkness between stars, their vessels like obsidian blades slicing through the void. The Hegemony Armada darkened Earth's orbit within hours. Thousands of ships arranged in perfect geometric formations. Humanity's long-held question about being alone in the universe was answered with crushing finality. No warnings, no demands for surrender. The first plasma volleys struck military installations across the globe with surgical precision. Beijing, Washington, Moscow, New Delhi. Command centers vaporized in silent flashes visible from space. Earth's organized military response lasted exactly 27 minutes. In the smoking ruins of what was once Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado, Commander Elena Rice pulled herself from beneath collapsed concrete and twisted metal. Blood trickled from a gash across her forehead, but adrenaline numbed the pain. The attack had come during her shift in the underground command bunker, a facility supposedly hardened against any known weapon. The alien plasma had cut through it like paper. Elena coughed, dust filling her lungs as she surveyed what remained of Earth's primary aerospace defense headquarters. Fires burned across the complex. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, their cries seeming pathetically inadequate against the scale of destruction. Her tactical implant buzzed. A miracle it still worked. A message scrolled across her retinal display. Cobalt Protocol activated. Conventional defense grid compromised. Switch to distributed system. So it had begun. The contingency that military strategists had debated for decades was now reality. Alien invasion. And humanity's primary defenses had been neutralized in less than half an hour. But Elena knew something the aliens didn't. "Commander," a voice called from the shadows. Captain James Chen emerged, his uniform torn and face blackened with soot. The central server core survived. "We got 15 minutes before their next orbital sweep." Elena nodded grimly. "Download everything into the mesh network and destroy the hardware. We're going underground." In high orbit, Supreme Commander Calvor of the Hegemony Expansion Force observed the burning planet with his 4 eyes narrowed in satisfaction. The tactical display showed their first strikes had been flawlessly executed, all major military command centers destroyed, communication grids severed, orbital assets neutralized. The conquest was proceeding exactly as the simulations had predicted. First phase complete. Supreme Commander, his executive officer reported. 97% of identified military targets neutralized. The primitive defense systems of the humans posed no significant challenge. Calvor's mouthparts clicked in approval. The Hegemony's intelligence was correct. These humans are technologically primitive. Their nuclear arsenals and primitive projectile weapons are no match for our capabilities. Shall we commence civilian pacification protocols? Calvor considered this. The Hegemony had conquered 17 species across 12 star systems, and the pattern was always the same. Destroy military capability first, then demonstrate overwhelming force against population centers until the inevitable surrender. Begin with their secondary cities. 10 million casualties should be sufficient to break their will. The executive officer hesitated. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting unusual activity in their information networks. They appear to be implementing some kind of distributed communication protocol." Calvor dismissed this with a wave of his upper limb. "Irrelevant. Desperate measures from a dying civilization. Proceed with the bombardment." 3 weeks later, Calvor was no longer confident. The pacification bombardment had gone precisely as planned. 23 human cities had been reduced to ash. The Hegemony's ground forces had established beachheads on every continent. Victory was assured. Yet somehow, inexplicably, human resistance was intensifying rather than collapsing. "This makes no strategic sense," Calvor growled, studying the war room displays. "We destroyed their command structure. Their militaries are in chaos. How are they coordinating these attacks?" The attacks in question defied conventional military logic. The hegemony's forward operating bases were being hit by swarms of small, improvised explosive devices delivered by civilian drones. Supply convoys were ambushed using primitive but effective weaponry. Communication relays were being jammed by techniques that shouldn't have been within human technological capability. Most disturbing of all, humanity wasn't following the expected psychological pattern. Instead of surrendering in the face of overwhelming force, they were adapting, learning. Every hegemony tactic seemed effective only once before the humans developed countermeasures. "We've captured one of their resistance leaders," his intelligence officer reported. "You may want to interrogate this one personally." The human was brought to the command ship in orbit. A female, bloody but defiant. Alina Reyes stood before Calvor with her hands bound, but her posture remained unmistakably military. "Your species continues to resist despite the futility," Calvor stated, looming over her. "Explain this irrationality." Alina's laugh caught him off guard. "You really don't understand humans at all, do you? I understand that your formal military forces have been decimated. Your governments are in disarray. Your technology is primitive. Yet you resist. This defies strategic logic." Alina's eyes burned with an intensity that made even Calvor uncomfortable. "You thought destroying our military bases meant destroying our military. We eliminated your command structure and most of your hardware capabilities." "You destroyed buildings and equipment," Alina corrected. "But our real defense strategy doesn't rely on centralized command or conventional hardware." Calvor's exoskeleton stiffened. "Explain." Alina smiled, and for the first time, Calvor felt something unfamiliar, a cold sensation that his species equivalent to a spine. Was it uncertainty? "Humanity has been preparing for this moment for generations," she said, "not officially, not openly. But we knew someday we might face a technologically superior enemy. So we developed a different kind of defense, distributed, adaptable, impossible to decapitate with a single strike." "You're lying," Calvor dismissed her. "Our intelligence thoroughly analyzed human military capabilities before the invasion." "Your intelligence saw what we wanted everyone to see," Alina replied. "The tanks, the jets, the aircraft carriers, they're almost theatrical at this point. Our real defense is the tactical swarm." Before Calvor could respond, alarms blared throughout the command ship. His tactical officer's voice came through the communication system with undisguised panic. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting thousands, no, millions of small objects rising from the planet's surface." On the main view screen, Calvor watched in disbelief as what looked like a metallic cloud ascended from Earth's atmosphere. Countless tiny objects moving in perfect coordination, like a living entity. "The tactical swarm," Alina said calmly. "Hundreds of millions of network drones, each one individually simple, but collectively forming a distributed weapons system more advanced than anything your hegemony has encountered. They've been hidden in plain sight, disguised as civilian technology, manufactured in garages and basements, controlled by a mesh network that can't be destroyed by taking out any single node." As they watched, the swarm engaged the hegemony's orbital defense platforms. The tiny drones sacrificed themselves by the thousands, but their sheer numbers overwhelmed the alien defenses. One by one, the platforms began to fall. "This is merely the first wave," Alina continued. "While you were bombing our cities, we were adapting, analyzing your technology, finding weaknesses. Humanity doesn't fight like your previous conquests. We don't surrender when our capitals fall. We don't need a centralized military to resist. Every human becomes a soldier when our survival is threatened." For the first time in his distinguished military career, Calvor felt something dangerously close to fear. "You've been captured. Your information networks are compromised. This attack will fail." Alina's smile widened. "I let myself be captured, Commander. And as for our networks..." She nodded toward the view screen, where the swarm had now formed a perfect geometric pattern, a mirror image of the hegemony's own formation. "We're just getting started. The tactical swarm's first coordinated attack demolished 30 hegemony ships before they could raise their shields. The tiny drones, each carrying a minuscule but potent explosive charge, targeted propulsion systems and weapon emplacements with uncanny precision. "Impossible," Calvor whispered. "The level of coordination required." "Distributed artificial intelligence," Alina explained. "Developed in secret for decades. No central control to target. No single point of failure. The perfect defense against an advanced aggressor." Calvor's mind raced. This changed everything. The hegemony's conquest strategy relied on quick subjugation of primitive species through overwhelming technological superiority. But if humans had been concealing their true capabilities, "You should know," Alina added, "that what you're seeing isn't our military response." "Not really." "What do you mean?" Calvor demanded, mandibles clicking in agitation. "The swarm, the mesh network, the distributed resistance. That's just our civilian contingency plan. Our actual military hasn't even mobilized yet." Calvor stared at her, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "You expect me to believe?" The ship shuddered violently, cutting him off. Emergency lighting flashed as his tactical officer reported. "Supreme Commander, multiple breaches detected in sectors 7 through 12. We're being boarded." Alina's restraints fell away. The electronic locks apparently deactivated remotely. She stood unbound before the increasingly panicked hegemony commander. "You thought you were facing a primitive, unprepared species," she said. "But we've been expecting something like this for generations. You've awakened a defensive system designed to counter exactly the kind of threat you represent." Another violent shudder ran through the ship. Through the viewports, Calvor could see more of his fleet's vessels erupting in flames. "This is just the beginning," Alina warned. "You should tell your hegemony something important about Earth." "What?" Calvor asked, his voice barely audible. Alina's eyes hardened. "You haven't even seen our military yet." The revelation. Admiral Calvor paced the emergency command center of the hegemony flagship, his 4 arms clasped tightly behind his back. The displays surrounding him told a story that defied all strategic logic. In just 72 hours, the tactical swarm had decimated a third of his invasion force. Ground operations had stalled completely as human resistance fighters seemed to anticipate their every move. "How?" he demanded of his assembled officers. "How could our intelligence have been so catastrophically wrong?" His chief analyst, a brilliant Sartorian with enhanced cognitive implants, appeared genuinely disturbed. "Admiral, we followed standard evaluation protocols. Human military technology, as publicly displayed, was assessed at classification level 3, pre-stellar, nuclear-capable, limited orbital presence." "Then explain this." Calvor swept his upper arm toward the tactical display, where another hegemony cruiser had just vanished from the grid. "The only explanation is deliberate deception on a species-wide scale," the analyst replied. "They've been hiding their true capabilities." The revelation struck Calvor like a physical blow. In the hegemony's 12,000 years of expansion, never had they encountered a species that concealed its technological advancement. It went against every known sociological pattern. Advanced species displayed their capabilities proudly, using them to establish dominance and prestige. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the human resistance. They're requesting to negotiate." Calvor's mandibles clicked in surprise. Perhaps the humans were finally recognizing the futility of resistance against the full might of the hegemony. "Display the transmission." The holographic projector shimmered, and the face of Commander Alina Reyes appeared. She had escaped during the chaos of the tactical swarm's first attack, somehow making it back to Earth despite the blockade. "Admiral Calvor," she began without preamble, "I'm authorized to offer you one chance to withdraw your forces from our solar system." Calvor's hide flushed dark with indignation. "You are in no position to make demands, human. Your resistance, while surprisingly effective, cannot hope to match the full might of the hegemony. We have millions more ships, billions more soldiers. That would be intimidating, Elena replied, if you could get them here. But I think you're about to discover another unpleasant surprise about Earth's defenses. The transmission cut abruptly. Seconds later, alarms blared throughout the command center. Admiral, his sensor officer cried out. Massive energy signature detected near the human moon. It's some kind of artificial structure. The main display shifted to show Earth's moon, but with a difference that made even Calvor's hardened military heart sink. A massive installation was emerging from the lunar surface, shedding regolith as armored panels slid open to reveal what could only be described as a colossal cannon. That's impossible, the science officer whispered. We scanned their satellite thoroughly during approach. There was nothing there. As they watched in stunned silence, the lunar cannon rotated slowly toward the hegemony fleet. Energy readings spiked off the charts. Evasive maneuvers. Calvor roared, but it was too late. The weapon fired, not a destructive beam, but a precisely targeted electromagnetic pulse of unprecedented power. It washed over the hegemony armada like an invisible tide. Ship after ship went dark, their advanced systems overloaded by the precisely calibrated attack. On the bridge of the flagship, only emergency systems remained functional. Calvor stared in disbelief at the now silent displays. They targeted our systems specifically, the science officer noted with professional admiration despite their dire situation. The pulse was engineered to affect our technology while leaving their own intact. Through the viewport, Calvor watched as swarms of new vessels emerged from Earth's atmosphere, sleek, predatory craft unlike the primitive shuttles their intelligence had documented. These ships moved with impossible agility, their hulls gleaming with a material unknown to hegemony science. This can't be happening, Calvor muttered. Their technological progression doesn't make sense. How could they have hidden this? The answer came sooner than expected. Their communication system crackled to life. The humans had reactivated it remotely. I believe I can answer that question, Admiral, came Elena's voice. But I think a face-to-face conversation would be more productive. Before Calvor could respond, the ship's internal sensors detected multiple breaches. Somehow, human forces had boarded the disabled flagship. Defensive positions, he ordered, but his command staff looked at him with expressions that translated clearly across species barriers. Hopelessness. The doors to the command center slid open, and Elena Reyes walked in flanked by soldiers in advanced combat armor. The suits were like nothing in the hegemony's technological database, form-fitting yet clearly powered, with integrated weapon systems and sensory arrays that hummed with energy. Your boarding action is impressive but futile, Calvor declared, attempting to maintain dignity in defeat. The hegemony will send reinforcements. They will avenge this humiliation. Elena signaled to one of her soldiers, who projected a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the space surrounding the solar system, and a network of massive structures positioned at strategic points. These are our hyperspace inhibitors, Elena explained. Activated the moment your fleet entered our system. No transmission has left this solar system since you arrived. Your hegemony thinks everything is proceeding according to plan. Calvor sank into his command chair, his exoskeleton suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. Who are you people? Our intelligence indicated a fractious, primitive species barely united under competing nation-states. Elena smiled, not cruelly, but with something like understanding. That's exactly what we wanted the galaxy to think. Earth has been unified for much longer than we've let on. But why the deception? Advanced species announce themselves to the galaxy. They seek trade, alliances, recognition. History taught us caution, Elena replied. 200 years ago, we detected our first alien transmission. It was from a species seeking refuge, fleeing from conquerors who destroyed technologically advanced civilizations they deemed potential threats. That species was ultimately hunted to extinction because they announced their achievements to the stars. Calvor's primary heart clenched. She was describing the hegemony's eradication of the Antolians, a purge that had occurred before his lifetime, but was celebrated in their military academies as a strategic necessity. We made a choice then, Elena continued. Earth would appear divided, primitive, hardly worth conquering. We maintained the illusion of nation-states and limited technology, while building our real capabilities in secret. The lunar defense system, our subterranean manufacturing complexes, the orbital shipyards hidden behind Jupiter, all concealed by technology specifically designed to fool the kind of scans we anticipated from an advanced civilization. One of Elena's officers approached, handing her a data tablet. She studied it briefly before speaking again. Our forces have secured your fleet. Casualties were minimal. We disabled rather than destroyed where possible. And now? Calvor asked, surprised by the mercy shown. Now we send you home, Admiral, with a message. Outside the viewport, Calvor could see Earth's true military emerging from concealment. Massive carriers rose from beneath the oceans, stealth destroyers decloaked in orbit. From the dark side of Mars, an armada of warships appeared, a reserve force positioned to counterattack had the initial defense failed. All this time, Calvor whispered, you were testing us, observing our tactics, our technology. Elena nodded. The tactical swarm was just the first layer, a civilian defense system designed to buy time for our military to fully mobilize. Everything you've seen so far has been carefully measured to determine your capabilities without revealing the full extent of ours. The realization crushed whatever remained of Calvor's military pride. The humans hadn't just defeated them, they had studied them, like scientists observing specimens in a controlled experiment. What message am I to deliver to the hegemony? A simple one, Elena replied. Earth is not a target. Not because we're primitive or weak, but because we're far more dangerous than you can imagine. Tell your leaders that we could have destroyed your entire fleet, but chose not to. Tell them that Earth seeks neither conquest nor conflict, but we will not tolerate aggression. Calvor found himself respecting this human commander despite the humiliation of defeat. They will not believe me without proof. You'll have proof. Elena nodded to one of her officers, who activated another holographic display. It showed a massive hegemony military installation on a distant moon, one of their most secure forward operating bases. As they watched, the installation silently disappeared in a flash of light that left nothing but a perfectly hemispherical crater. That was one of our long-range kinetic weapons, Elena explained calmly. The hegemony has 23 similar installations throughout your territory. We've had them targeted for decades. For the first time in his life, Calvor felt genuine fear for the hegemony's future. You've been watching us that long. We've been watching everyone, gathering intelligence, preparing defenses, developing countermeasures specific to each spacefaring species we detected. Elena stepped closer, her expression serious but not threatening. Humanity doesn't want war, Admiral. We revealed only a fraction of our capabilities today. Enough to make our point, not enough to provoke a desperate all-out attack from the hegemony. We're offering a path to peace. Calvor considered this. The hegemony had never encountered a species like humanity before, one that had deliberately hidden its advancement, that had prepared so thoroughly for conflict, while apparently desiring to avoid it. I will deliver your message, he finally said. But the Hegemony Council may not be receptive. Our civilization is built on expansion, on the belief in our inherent superiority. Then they'll need to evolve, Elena replied simply, because the alternative would be catastrophic for both our species. As Calvor was escorted to his personal vessel, now the only ship the humans were permitting to return to hegemony space, he looked back at the blue planet that had so thoroughly appended everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. One last question, he said to Elena, who had accompanied him to the departure bay. Your actual military, the one you claim we haven't truly seen yet, how powerful is it? Belina's expression remained measured, but there was something in her eyes that Calvor would remember for the rest of his days. "Let's hope your hegemony never forces us to answer that question definitively," she said. "What you encountered was our defensive capability, designed specifically to repel the exact kind of invasion you attempted. Our offensive capabilities remain untested against another spacefaring civilization. We'd prefer to keep it that way." As his ship broke free of Earth's gravity well, Calvor watched the human vessels part to create a corridor for his departure. The precision of their movement, the silent discipline of their formation, it spoke volumes about a military culture far more advanced than anyone in the hegemony had suspected. The humans could have destroyed them completely. Instead, they had chosen restraint, diplomacy, even mercy. It was an approach to warfare the hegemony had never considered, not weakness, as they would have previously assumed, but a different kind of strength. Calvor set course for hegemony space, his mind already composing the report that would send shockwaves through the Empire's highest echelons. One phrase kept repeating in his thoughts, the human commander's casual statement that had changed everything. "You haven't even seen our military yet."